Hey everybody, it's Prajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. We had a bit of a break last week as myself and Tane were away doing some pretty cool things. And today's just going to be me on the podcast and our awesome guest. And as always, we share something that we have learnt over the last week up into our basket of knowledge. And for me, I think my biggest learning is embracing change. For those of you that know me, I've been working at the University of Otago for a very, very long time. And I have left that role and I started a new role at the university at AUT. A very, very different role. And I've been at Otago for 20 odd years. So embracing change, moving to a new city, moving to a new role, everything's just new, and it's pretty scary. And just embracing that change and allowing myself to grieve and to accept the fact that, hey, when I say grieve, I mean to go, hey, it's okay for me not to know things, and it's okay for me to miss what I've known in the past and accept these new cool challenges that are coming forward. So yeah, for me, the big thing for me is embracing change as I go forward in this new journey, whatever that looks like. And it's something that I've had to talk to other people about as well. And it's been awesome having some amazing support structures out there to help me with that there. So if you're out there listening to this podcast, whatever change, change is part of life, whether it's changing a job, whether it's changing where you live, whether it's changing what you want to study, those things are part of life. And it's difficult at that point in time. But once you accept that, then, change is always obviously going to come up with a good result, or you have a learning. So that's my learning over the last week, I guess. But as always, hey, it's not about me. It's about our guests. And as always, as you know, we scour the country and the world to have a guest on this podcast that we think we're amazing. As always, we think is amazing. Everyone's got a story to tell. And this evening or this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are in the world, I'm really lucky, really privileged, and really honored to have someone that I got told about by some of our other previous podcast guests, Kai and Magdalene. They name dropped our guest, and I went on a bit of a journey to find out who this person was. And I was like, oh, wow, no wonder you were spoken so highly about with Kai and Magdalene, and I'm sure a lot of other peers. So I'd like to welcome, thank, and acknowledge our guest, Adam, on our podcast. Welcome, Adam, to Baskets of Knowledge.
Kia ora. Thank you.
Fantastic, Adam. For listeners who know nothing about you, who is Adam and what is Adam up to at this point in time in Adam's life?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess just very quickly, ki te taha toko papa ko Ngāti Kahungunu. I'm from Timaru, and my mum is from Otipoti, Dunedin, and my dad's side is mostly from Timaru, but they also whakapapa back to Whītau up around Kizi, where my grandma's from as well. So that's the long story of me, where I sort of whakapapa to. But yeah, what am I doing? At the moment, I'm working on a little business with my wife, Laura, a small toothpaste business. And our kaupapa around there is very focused on sustainability and saving the 16 million toothpaste tubes that currently go to landfill in New Zealand every year.
Beautiful. What a great start to this conversation. Adam, and I guess, my first question is going to be, if I spoke to Adam as a year 13 Timaru all those years ago, and I said to you, hey, Adam, in a few years' time, you're going to be in a business with your wife, what would you have said to me at that point in time?
Yeah, that was interesting. Well, I think actually year 13 for me was a really interesting big year, because that year my whānau, we went to India for a holiday. I tell you this because I think it was quite transformational for me, because it was really the first sort of major trip. My whānau had been overseas before, and it was a big kind of deal for us. We weren't the sort of family that went away overseas that often. And it was kind of, in many ways, it was like a massive disaster. We got sick, we got lost a bunch of times. There was a few times that we probably paid more for stuff than we probably should have. And it was kind of a disaster. But it was also like such an amazing opportunity and experience as well. We went to Mumbai and to Goa. And I think what I learned from that was, and I think this is where it sort of comes back to, I think what I learned from that was that, New Zealand is a very unusual small country. And if you are lucky enough to grow up in New Zealand, you don't really know anything about the world. Well, this is what I took away from it anyway. And I kind of came back. I remember driving through we were living in Christchurch at the time. remember driving through the suburbs of Christchurch on the way back from that trip and being like, man, I know nothing about anything. And I feel like I've just been given a little window into like what the world's actually like. Now, obviously, the world is not all like Mumbai, but a little bit more of a sense of like what is a bit more normal in the rest of the world, you know? So I think I would have never known what I was going to end up doing, but I realized that I needed to go out and actually learn a little bit more about the world because I was kind of ignorant, right? Like I mean, like most 17-year-olds are, but I felt super ignorant and I felt like I needed to go out and learn more about the world because that would just help me get a better sense of what the hell was going on, you know?
Yeah, and it's crazy you say that because those are key moments in your life. Year 13 is a year when your life is changing quite dramatically, and it's quite. Was it intentional that your family planned the trip when you're finishing up school, or was it just happened to be like, hey, family trip happens to be year 13, off we go?
But the funny thing was that we'd had one other international trip with my family, and we'd been to Thailand when I was like 11 or something, and we'd Phuket. And so I think that my parents thought that going to India was going to be like going to Phuket, and that we were going to have like a couple of days in Mumbai, and then we'd go to Goa and about. For those of people who have been to India, like especially 20 something years ago, like it's not like an easy beach holiday. It's it's a lot more in your face than that, and that's what made it so special. But I think that we thought it was going to be like this relaxing beach holiday, and it wasn't. We kind of got punched in the face with reality, and that was amazing. That was what it should be.
It's so funny, Adam. I went to India in 2006 for the first time as an adult, and I still remember I called my dad. My parents live in Zimbabwe. And my dad said to me, I remember he's like, when you get to India, you've just got to forget that you live in New Zealand. Just got to forget that. And when the plane door opens, you're going to be attacked. All your senses are going to be attacked, and you just have to embrace it. And I said to my dad, "Oh, whatever, whatever, Dad." And sure enough, when the door opened in Mumbai airport, I was like, "What is going on here?" And like you, I just thought it was pretty amazing, and it was so different to New Zealand. But also for some context, I've grown up in Africa as well, so it was like a hybrid of Africa, but not at the crazy level that Mumbai is. So yes, I totally totally empathize with you when you go, "Wow, this is a sensory explosion of all sorts."
It was so good though. Like, because I didn't feel like I'd grown up privileged. My family weren't like poor, but we were like working class, and I sort of had felt like that I was like not privileged, and then, but it's really good to realize your privilege early on, right? It's really good to
Yeah.
understand, how lucky you are and how you do have. And as I say, just more to like learn that if your worldview is what happens in New Zealand, then you don't have a worldview. And
Yes.
it wasn't that India was good or bad. It was I loved every single second of it because I was like, if I know about India, I know more about humans because there's lots of people from India,
Yes.
and so yeah, it was more just like a realization that New Zealand's a great place, it's a beautiful place, but it's not really the world. It's a very small part of it,
Yeah.
But,
And it's so crazy, I guess, if we think about 20 years ago, that was the norm. Your norm was wherever you grew up. You couldn't
yeah,
just travel easily as you can now. The world has
yeah,
changed so dramatically. People go over to, I was speaking to someone today and they said to me, one of their colleagues went to Disneyland, Japan for a weekend. And I was like, what? This is so crazy. They went on a Thursday, came back on a Monday. I was like, this is so crazy. And, so the world has changed dramatically. So, as you said, at that point in time, your world was your world. And then you go, wait a minute, there's actually a lot more to the world than what I see at Hagley
and
Park.
this is a place that I will need to learn more about. And
Yes.
obviously, I learned more about other countries as well. But so it was sort of like about Asia, like I was like, man, Asia's a very interesting place. But specifically, it was like India always had that little kind of that kind of spark of interest for me. So it was very transformational for me. Just wanting to kind of explore the world, like many people. I guess I was a wee bit different in those days, and that I wanted to look at Asia. I didn't want to go so much to Europe and that. So I ended up spending even more time over that part of the world. But yeah, it was definitely a big part of my life, and a big spark for me, big turning point.
Yeah, and I guess, as I was reading about you, as you said, Asia has been a big part of your life over the last, few years. Was that, do you think, do you want to talk about that, how, you navigated your journey and your studies, and then how did you get back into this whole Asia New Zealand network, and how did that come into your life?
Yeah, sure. So that this trip to India was really the spark, and it really made me think. Well, I want to learn more about the world. For me, the way to do that was to do history, to learn more about how things used to be. I'm a massive history nerd. If you looked at my podcast list, it's got lots of like quite strange kind of history podcasts. And so I wanted to understand the world by learning what had come before. And so I focused on Asia, I focused on China and India and just Asia in general. And so and really just followed what I was interested in and followed what I felt was going to help me understand more about the world. And that, a few twists and turns later, I kind of got this master's degree and I was in Auckland. I was like, well, I guess I have to get a job at some point, and somehow managed to get a job with Asian New Zealand Foundation, Te Tūhono. And that was a bit of a fluke, a bit of a piece of luck to just get that job in the first place. But I ended up having this really interesting career where I focused on building the connections between entrepreneurs in New Zealand and Southeast Asia, and building one of New Zealand's, I always thought, New Zealand's best leadership network with a focus on Asia. And it was really cool because, as we've been talking about, Asia was a part of the world that I was interested in, but this gave me like connections and contacts with people from that part of the world that I could meet and learn from and talk to and build connections with them in Aotearoa, New Zealand as well. And I think that's been a big part of my I guess value set, is like that idea of like whanaungatanga, that ability to build connections and networks with people. And just I love meeting people. I love just getting to know people and learning about what they're doing, which I suspect you do, Rajesh, as well, just from brief conversation. And so I like talking to people Porirua and Tikahi Bay, but if I could meet someone from Japan or someone from Bangladesh, like that's super cool as well,
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, just building those connections and just learning. Like, sorry, I'll stop.
No, go on. It's all good. No need to stop, Adam. Yeah, I see your train of thought there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that Asian New Zealand Foundation was amazing for that. So what I started off doing was we had this program that I lucky enough to start that was let's just sort of connect business people and start conversations in New Zealand. And so started inviting all these amazing entrepreneurs down to New Zealand and learning about what they were doing, and then started taking delegations of Kiwi entrepreneurs to the region as well. And so that was amazing. You learn about how there's all these different problems out there and people are solving them in different ways. So how people are solving, say, climate change in the Philippines is very different to how we're looking at it in New Zealand. But there's a lot we can learn from each other in the ways that we're approaching it. And so many different things. I've had these friends in Vietnam that are working on like alternative proteins around like growing cricket farms. And like that's quite an out there thing for Kiwi, but like that's a super cool idea, and it's just a different way of looking at the climate crisis. So I found that was awesome, just having those different perspectives on how to solve problems. But the other thing I was involved with was the Asian New Zealand Leadership Network, and I was lucky enough to run that for a couple of years. And it was just cool to meet all these people around Aotearoa who I guess wanted to make the world different, better, in their own different way, in their own different field. I just had this real passion for like building connections between New Zealand and Asia. And that was just kind of a kaupapa I shared, I guess, something I was super interested in as well, and was lucky to be able to be part of that for some of those ambitions.
And that's really awesome. And I love that because, you speak about the diverse viewpoints. And I think that's what a lot of us forget about, that there's so many ways to look at a problem and find different solutions. And, when you have diverse thoughts of ways of thinking, but also there's no one right way to do something, with the whole climate change. I think about, again, I think about Africa, and I'm like, we talk about electric vehicles, but in Africa, they don't have electricity. So is that actually a viable option in some places? You go, it's so crazy to think about and go, wait a minute, let's think about this it might work in our world, but in different parts of the world, we can't say, yeah, you're nice. It's awesome that you had that opportunity. But one thing that intrigued me in your little answer there was the word entrepreneur. So, you spoke about history, you spoke about that, and I'm going to come back to this later on. Was there a sign for you that this entrepreneurship world was something that you were getting into, which is not what you're doing really, I guess, in your life? But was there a link to you working with entrepreneurs, or that just happened to be the people that you connected with Asia New Zealand, or was it something that you inherently was like, hey, this is a cool space for me to get involved in?
Yeah, it wasn't something that I was actually like focused on when I was younger. My old man used to own the cash converters in Christchurch back in the day, and back in the day, cash converters was a bit different. It wasn't so much about the loaning of money; it was like buying and selling of stuff. And I reckon, like, I used to buy product converters, and I reckon I learned more about business then than I did about in a lot of other ways, right? Because it's that hardcore negotiation,
Totally.
So, and I worked at that style, and I think I learned a lot about business, like the buying and selling of stuff, So I
Yeah.
don't think that was really entrepreneurial, but just that kind of that mindset of like doing something different and kind of like wanting to do your own thing a little bit and just looking out there and seeing stuff. And like, I don't think I was really primed for it. I mean, I was like a student. I did like art history and like all this
Yes,
sort of
totally.
stuff. I didn't really think I'd be doing business, but I just got really fascinated by it. And I think especially in like in like Southeast Asia, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. I mean, these are incredibly dynamic places, and the entrepreneurs you meet there, they kind of like they just blew me away, like what they were doing and the way they were approaching the world and the way they were just looking at things. And I was like, I don't really know. I think I understand you guys or what you're doing or what you're about, but I want to be around you, Right? And it was the same in New Zealand. I've met some incredible entrepreneurs in New Zealand. Sharesies. I took one of the CEOs of Sharesies Philippines in like 2015 when they had like 4 people, and spent a week with them over there, Sonia. And I was like, man, like Sharesies is incredible. This is going to be massive. And I didn't probably think it was going to be, well, no, it was going to be like what it turned out to be. But you spend a week with someone like that, and I feel like you're in a good place. Like I guess if I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room, I feel like I'm in the right room, And I felt like that a lot in my life, and yeah, I think that was really cool. So I think it was I just found like the humans, the people who are doing these kind of crazy things, so inspirational that I just kind of want to be around them, and yeah, and still love that, still that love the way that really ambitious entrepreneurial people think.
And I love that because the saying that you are the product of the 5 people you're around, and I guess when you're around those people that are making you feel like, hey, I need to learn from you or learn about you, as opposed to, oh no, I'm not as smart as you. Very, very different mindsets. And I think I keep on trying to tell people, hey, you've got to be around people that are smarter than you. It's very important. So when I work with young people, like find someone who's smarter than you, like no, I'm the smartest. Like no, 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 you've got to find someone smarter than you because that's the only way you're going to learn. And it's really awesome that you had that opportunity, but
Yeah,
also
and it's always going to be smarter.
no, oh, sorry, I was just saying, it also means that, but also your mindset, you could be in the room with smart people, but you could just feel like, oh, this is not for me. But your mindset, Adam, is the growth mindset, which is important because you can have a different mindset as well. So got to acknowledge that as well. We're going to go back to the cash converters, right? That's where it came from all those years ago.
Yeah, man, totally.
Yeah, it all starts when you're young, really. And I guess talking about the people connection, and what is it like for you getting involved in the Obama leadership program? Because that's obviously was there something that somebody asked you to sign up for, or did you go, hey, this is something I want to get into? Because I know it's quite a process to fill out that application form and
Yeah. So Obama Foundation Leadership Network is this really cool leadership network run out of the US. So yeah, by Obama and Michelle and Barack Obama, and I I knew about it and heard about it for a few years, and sort of thought, well, no point me applying for that. And then I had this friend, Florence Van Dyke, who runs Chair Sisters, or used to run Chair Sisters, and
can I
she
can
kept
I
telling me to do it.
let's have a Flossie. So Flossie Florence and her sister. Crazy story, if you don't mind me just diverting for a second. So when I moved to New Zealand, Chloe was my neighbor at the university I went to at Otago. She was my neighbor, and Flossie or Florence, like people know Flossie because they're not that way. Florence was a first year resident when I was an RA at the Hall, and so I've seen their journey, and I was like, wow, these are two crazy, awesome human beings. So it's so crazy.
No, I love those two. Yeah, me and Foster,
Oh wow, yeah.
so we've been knowing each other for a long time. I just got up for yesterday, but yeah, she started nagging me to apply for this program, and I was like, I'm not sure about that. But Floss, and you know that she's the sort of person that you don't really say no to. If she tells you to do something, you kind of feel like you should. So I ended up putting an application in, and it's luckily successful. And yeah, I think the Obama Foundation was great. I think the Obama Foundation thing for me was I'm not like a in your face kind of like at the front of the queue kind of leader, like I'm not really like the main person. And I think my work at the foundation was always like supporting other leaders. It was like creating a network that enabled leaders to succeed on the leadership network side, and on the entrepreneurship side, it was about bringing these entrepreneurs from different countries together so they could like learn from each other, right? And so my role was not listen to me, I know what to talk about. My role was to facilitate and build connections. And so I never saw myself as a leader because I didn't see that as leadership. I saw that as like facilitation or project management or whatever, and it wasn't, and I guess so I hadn't really sort of thought, well, I'm a leader, I should go for leadership programs. I was sort of thought, well, what other leadership programs that I can like work with, so it took me a little bit of convincing to say that that is a form of leadership, I guess at the start, and so once kind of Floss got me over the line of that, I think that's in the end, that's why they selected me, because that's the sort of person they're looking for. So that was quite likely, because there's a lot of people who are bigger, better, more inspirational leaders than me, who are like driving more change, and doing really cool stuff. But I guess what the Obama Foundation's looking for is more people like me who are in the background supporting other people and trying to create change that way. So that was a lucky coincidence, because it's quite a cool network to be part of. And yeah, it's been really cool. I'm still part of it now. I'm facilitating groups for the new position that's just coming through. I was in Oxford this year with this at the Skull Forum, and met a whole bunch of like leaders from around the world. And yeah, so it's been a very, very cool opportunity that I'd highly recommend to anyone who's feeling ambitious out there and wants to make a difference. And just the people you get to meet are amazing. Like, just you've been talking about coming from Africa. There's a whole bunch. Like, I've been meeting a whole bunch of the Africa Obama leaders, and my focus has always been on Asia, and just connecting with these people in Africa is just like, man, it's so cool. There's so much interesting stuff going on in Kenya and Ethiopia and Madagascar that I just had no idea about. So yeah, it's been very cool.
Oh, brilliant. And I think the big thing there for you is you had someone who believed in you. Like, Floss was your person that said, hey, I believe in you and I know. Because sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the times we don't see our value in the things we do. We just do it because it's what we love doing. And it's when an external person goes, hey, by the way, you're pretty awesome. Put an application in. And, if you didn't have that person, you wouldn't have done that. You would have just been, this is, as you said before, this is not me. I'm not going to apply for this. So it's really awesome. And I think that's important for anyone out there, that if you have that person that believes in you, it's because they see something in you, and sometimes you got to trust them and go, right, cool, I'll give it a crack. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But giving it a crack is nothing to lose, right? Which is really
Yeah,
cool.
and especially with me and Floss, because she's like 10 years younger than me too, or she's a lot younger than me, right? So that's very much a Tuakana Taina thing, where you do have to
100%.
learn from the young people sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's good. It's good to get outside your comfort zone a wee bit, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard, especially when someone's young, you're like, got to put my ego aside and all the other stuff that comes with humanity and go, hey, this is all good. I want to shift focus because I think, there's so much we can dive into, but I think we're going to talk about the stuff that you're involved in right now. As you said before, at the start, you did some pretty cool things with your wife, but that wasn't the first thing that you started doing. You had your job, you're doing really fantastic. When did you decide, hey, actually, my wife's onto something really cool, and let's get involved in this here. Let me go hundreds with her. And I guess before we even talk about it, you want to explain what the cool thing that your wife is doing.
Yeah, sure. So my wife is her name's Laura. She's a dental hygienist, dental therapist, what we call oral health therapist, right? An OHT. And she's very passionate about it. Like, she really loves oral care. And she was working, and she just used to get really frustrated with all like the waste that's involved with dental, with oral care. It's a little bit of a black box, the kind of the dental industry. It's a little bit like the healthcare sector. There's just a lot of like systems that aren't always explained, or really kind of like, this is just the way it is, And there's just a huge amount of plastic in particular involved in the dental sector. A lot of it's for good reason, like you have to have infection control, but there's a lot of like waste as well. And that just kind of grew her a bit crazy. And we were also going through, I guess, a bit of a zero waste kind of phase in our lives. We were looking at like how to become a little bit more sustainable. And this was largely because we started having kids. I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And, like many people who have kids, it's sort of, you help reevaluate your life and where you're doing and what you're doing well and all that sort of stuff. And Laura was leading this. She was cutting a lot of our meat out of our diet, and doing cloth nappies and all the sort of stuff that you can make, those little changes that can help you become a bit more sustainable and a bit more, I guess, aware of like what's going on in the kind of the climate crisis. And so I learned a lot from her about not just like what was happening, but like cool things that you can do to like make a difference. And so we sort of were both going on this kind of little pathway of like, yeah, doing all the kind of little things you can do. And I remember she was developing a mouthwash. She's a very creative, inventive person, Laura. She's the complete opposite of me. She's like a hardcore introvert that loves to kind of like tinker in the garage. And I'm more of the extrovert that wants to go to all the events and talk to people. And so she was having a great time inventing things. And she just started inventing this toothpaste and these toothpaste tablets. And she's like, I want to create a plastic-free oral care range. So, go for it. Great, fantastic. And she started to create it, spent a lot of time developing it and tinkering with it and thinking about it, and then just going out and talking to people about what she was doing. And this is sort of at the start of COVID, it was sort of mid 2020 when she was doing this. And I guess for me, there just became a point where I'd spent so much of my life supporting amazing entrepreneurs. And then I kind of realized that I was helping her grow this. It really aligns with values, really into the kaupapa. And, she's just doing such a cool thing. Like, maybe I should help her too. But yeah, so Solid, we make toothpaste tablets, and toothpaste powder. All is in glass jars that can be returned to us. At the moment, we are in about 250 stores around New Zealand. A lot of dentists, a lot of eco stores, so like Good For, Common Sense Organics, eco stores like that. We're in about 100 New World at the moment now, which has been really exciting, and we're doing a little bit of work in Australia as well. And we're really focused on I guess I see my contribution to climate action is behaviour change. How can we all be doing little things differently that make a difference to the world, right? And it's not so like we've all got to live in caves and we can't kind of consume anything, or we need to do everything completely differently. It's more, what are things that we can control? What are the things that we are able to change? And then what are the steps to kind of make those changes for? And I think that's the way we can solve the climate crisis. I don't think it's about or that's the way to get. So that's been amazing. It's been really cool. We've had some really cool achievements. Laura invented the world's first in-store toothpaste dispenser, which is kind of a random brag, I'm aware, but we have this homemade sausage machine actually engineered, which just makes it zero waste, right? Because toothpaste tubes, they can't be recycled; they have to go to landfill in New Zealand. And so that's been pretty fun.
Oh, wow. Sorry, we missed the last bit there because your sound cut out there. So your wife has invented the world's first toothpaste dispenser, did you say?
Yeah, the world's first in-store toothpaste dispenser.
Amazing.
So because toothpaste tubes can't be recycled, they have to go to landfill in New Zealand. And glass is good, but single-use glass is just as bad as single-use plastic. So we always had to create a way that the glass would stay in circulation and it would be used more than once. And toothpaste tablets, they're not a product that you can't put them in cardboard or other stuff. That's the nature of the product. And so we've always been really focused on how you can refill it and return the jars as well. So inventing an in-store toothpaste dispenser is kind of a big deal for us. If any of your listeners have gone to a bin-in and made their own peanut butter, it's kind of the same sort of concept. You take your own jar, make your peanut butter, and then kind of leave. And the same with toothpaste. So that's pretty cool. We've got 5 of those machines now around different eco stores in New Zealand.
Awesome, beauty. And I guess I always ask entrepreneurs about the name. How did you choose the name Solid? Or how did Laura come with the name Solid?
That's definitely Laura. Well, it's kind of a boring answer, I have to say. It's SEO.
You got it with SEO?
We're an online business. We still do about 60 to 70% of our revenue online. And so, very focused on e-commerce.
100%. I think sometimes you got to be honest, right? And it's really quite funny because I have a coaching business, and I chose a name that's very close to my heart. And everyone's like, "What are you doing, buddy? No one's going to pick this up because the SEO is not going to pick it up." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And I should have listened to them. I was like, "Damn, I should have just been Solid and just done what they said to me." But anyway,
we had some failed experiments before, but we had interesting names that just didn't kind of make it past, right? But I guess the more practical reason is our toothpaste is solid, and so most toothpaste is about 40% water, and so most personal care products that you buy are water. Right, so your shampoo will be 80% water, your liquid soap will be 80% water, and so in a New Zealand context, what that means is that we are shipping bottles of plastic bottles full of water all around the world, and it's kind of stupid, right? And so if you take out the water in a thing like toothpaste, you don't actually need. It changes quite a lot about the formulation because you don't need the plastic, because what you need the plastic for is because it's a liquid. But also what you don't need is all the preservatives, artificial flavors, artificial colors. Because if you're making toothpaste in a massive big factory overseas somewhere, you want it to last for a long time. And so you can make it, you can put it in the factory and you can leave it there. Whereas if you take out the water, our product's self-preserving. It doesn't have all of that stuff there, and so we can like ship it out straight away. And it's just a very different pace, And so yeah, it's there's like a whole bunch of other companies like Atik and others that have basically done the same thing. As we kind of copied them. We took the word of our product because it's the easiest way to make a personal care product more sustainable.
Yeah. And that's really awesome because I don't think we realize that. So I think, it's learning here that actually, wait a minute, toothpaste is great, good for you. But let's think about, as you said before, what is the one thing you can change in your life? We all have to brush our teeth. We'll do that right every single day. Hopefully we do. So how do you do that?
And it might not be, and it might not be toothpaste for everyone. Like it might not be their
Yes.
thing. Like what we find is that there's a bit of like a sustainability like funnel. Like there's some
Yes.
early actions that you do, and then for many people you kind of build up to different things over the years, right? And we don't need all those people to be focused on toothpaste. It's just like, are you on that journey?
Totally.
And
Totally.
so like for example, I try and buy beer at the moment out of like a swapper crate because the
Yeah.
average swapper crate bottle gets used, goes around and round and round for something like 8 years. And
Oh,
so
wow.
like it's actually like an incredibly sustainable choice to buy swapper crate beer than to buy other beer, right? And so that's something that I do. And I'm not saying everyone should do that, but there's little things that you can do that can actually make a massive impact. Yeah? So
Yeah.
I obviously I'd love everyone to buy like my toothpaste, but I think it's more about like what are the different things that kind of mean something to you and the steps that you can make. Because we can all do something, but there's
Yes.
different stages in our life where it's harder to do something, and
Totally.
so when you're straight out of uni or you're at school or whatever, you can't be expected to be doing all of this stuff, right? But
Yeah.
as you get older, as you have more opportunity, more capability, you can do stuff, and I think you should push yourself to do some of those things as well.
And I think what's important there is, as you said before, you can't do everything. So, sometimes we try and do everything, we end up doing nothing. But if you just break it down, go, actually, what is the one thing that I could do, let's just say this year, and then to just build on that there. And as you said, someone in high school versus someone that is in their 40s has different capacity, different accessibility to income, and those different things which sometimes you need to make these things happen as well.
Totally, and so we call ourselves a values-based business, not normally a sustainable business. And one of our values is that value of like, and that like we have a responsibility to leave the world better than we came into it. Right now, the way that we choose to do that is up to us.
Yes.
No one else can really judge. We shouldn't let other people judge our own contribution to being a good ancestor. That's something that we have to think about ourselves, right? And so, yeah, it's about thinking about those ways that's going to be meaningful for you and that you can make that, right? And yeah, as I say, that can be so different. I was out for a walk the other day and met a guy who's putting rat traps all around up the back of Whītau because he's trying to stop make it more predator free around here, right? What an amazing impact! Like such a cool thing to do. It's probably not the thing that I'm going to be doing because like it's just something. It's not like something I would probably end up doing, Like
Yeah, totally.
but like, isn't that cool? So there's always little.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing, because some people just think I have to do everything, and then you end up doing nothing. You just like as you said before, you find your thing. If it's setting up rat traps, that's cool. If it's setting up a company with toothpaste, that's cool. If it's doing a podcast to talk about sustainability, whatever it is, it's just whether it's Chia Sisters doing the neutral production line, whatever it is, you have your thing, which is important.
And
And
I think it's really important. It feels so overwhelming, where it can feel like, oh my god, it's such a massive issue, it's such a massive problem. What can we possibly do? And
yeah,
that is a massive challenge, right? But we do have to break it into little bits, and we do have to work out what our pathway is. Which sound like I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, but one of our other values is like positivity, right? It's like how do you kind of bring that positivity? What you're doing? How do you like inspire people to be wanting to do things differently rather than wag your finger and tell them off?
yeah,
Because I think if anyone who's been to the with a hygienist, you can often walk out of those sessions. Oh, you're kind of being lectured through and pulled down a bit, and you need to floss more, man, or you're brushing incorrectly. Like, what are you doing? And it can be quite
yeah,
sort of, oh, okay, I don't want to go into it again.
yeah,
Like it can be quite confronting, right?
yeah,
And I think that climate action can be quite similar too. It can be kind of like you're doing the wrong thing. You need to do better. And in my experience, that's not very effective. Like you've got to like build those bridges, you've got to build those connections, get people to come with you. And so I think that's the value that really kind of drives the way that we think about our contribution to climate action.
And I love that analogy there about what a dentist or a health professional tells you doing wrong versus climate change. The other thing I wanted to just touch on is which I've noticed in this whole kōrero is your relationship back to Te Ao Māori and Tikanga Māori. Is that a big part of your life? Is that a journey that you've embraced along your life and it's been part of your, part of your role in Asia, New Zealand, and what you're doing now is with your wife Laura? Because there's values that come through Tikanga Māori that just. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
All right, guys, can you give me 10 more minutes and I'll come up and I'll jump in the bed with you guys? It won't be long, yeah? 10 more minutes. This is Prajesh, and I say kia ora.
Kia ora, team.
Right, you guys go jump up. I'll be up in 10 minutes now.
We'll be done soon with your dad.
I won't be long, Bobby. Okay, but do you mind just being quiet while I finish my convo? Yeah? Okay, I won't be long. All right, here comes the. Oh, okay. So, yeah, thank you. That's a cool question. So I didn't grow up with the culture of the language.
Yes.
And it's a very typical Kiwi story. My grandma, it wasn't particularly helpful for her to embrace her heritage in those days. The language wasn't encouraged, et cetera, right? So it kind of got lost a little bit in our whānau. And so I think I'm probably quite like a lot of people, having kids helped me kind of rethink that and reevaluate that. And so it's really important that my kids, sitting right next to me now, know that they're Māori and that they feel they understand culture and the language as much as possible. So yeah, we speak a lot of Māori in the house. We're part of the Māori parents group at primary school. Like we're in a part of the country that's very Māori. Like both our kids go to a kindy, our kids go to a kindy that is predominantly Māori, and same with their primary school. Yeah, you're kindy, yeah. You're kindy katoa. So yeah, I think that's been something that has been more in the last kind of 10 years. But it's been really cool. And I think for me, as someone who I guess is like Pākehā passing, but knows their Māori, for me it's more about more like a personal. I want my kids to know their Māori and to grow up that their culture and their language is known to them and understood by them. How they use it, and so what that means to them will be up to them. And yeah, so I think it's more of a personal thing for me. It's more something that's important to me and to my partner.
I was just saying that it's just what I enjoyed about that little explanation there was that the fact that it's so personal, a bit like what you have shared about the whole the journey with Asia, New Zealand, being in India, the product you've been developing with your wife. It's all about a personal journey, and there's no right or wrong. It's just everyone's got a personal journey. So it's really beautiful the way you put that out there. The reason I say that is because we live in a world now where there's all this expectation that you have to. Yeah, if you don't get involved in Te Ao Māori, then you're a bad person. If you don't involve crime, you're a bad person. There's factions of the world that are saying this here, but I love how you said, hey, this is everyone's journey, is their journey, and how you choose to go on the journey is up to you. And it's awesome that you, as a person, as an individual, embrace that and learn from it and go, okay, cool, this is me and my journey.
Yeah, well, I guess, I'm someone, like I imagine that you are and a lot of your listeners, that's interested in culture, right? Interested in other people. So, yeah, it's silly it's not silly, but it would be weird to me to spend so much time learning about the world and not have that confidence and understanding of my own culture as well, right? But because like many people in New Zealand, that was something that I had to learn. It wasn't something that I already knew, So yeah, that's cool.
That's beautiful. And I guess Adam, I can see your young people are waiting for you, so I won't keep you too much because that's important. So I guess there's so much that we can unpack and talk about, but I will share some links on the podcast. But my last question for you for tonight is our podcast is called Bastards of Knowledge. You've shared some amazing pieces of knowledge, but is there any one piece of knowledge that you'd like to share with our listeners and myself that you think is something that you think about when you're doing stuff in your life that's just enough for you?
That's a good question. I think I've been very lucky, and I don't think this is the case for all people at all time, but I've been lucky in that I've kind of always just followed what I was interested in, and it's got me places. Now, I realize that can be kind of a privileged thing to say, but the only reason I studied India was because I was just like really interested in it. The only reason that I started focusing on entrepreneurship because I was like, man, this is like super cool. I'm super into this. The only reason I got involved with like leadership stuff was like I kind of like felt like a dummy and was like, man, I need to learn, so I've just always kind of followed what's been interesting to me, and people that have been interesting to me. And those people have been so different, like I've met really smart ambassadors and like really cool business people. But I've learned a heap from the kayako at my son's kindy, the people that run the local surf club. Like there's so you learn so much from different people, right? So I think I wouldn't want to give advice to people, but I think I've been lucky in that following what's been interesting to me and following people that have been interesting to me has helped me have kind of an interesting life along the way. It's been ups and downs, and it's not always smooth sailing, but it's helped me have a more interesting life. And I think, that's what's worked for me. And I think trying to find that spark, that thing that really is interesting to you, and find those people that are compelling to you, and for whatever reason. I don't know. I think it's a good way to live, right?
100%. I like that because I think the key thing for is people. Sometimes we're passionate about something, but if you don't find the people that are interested in the same place, you don't know where to go. You're like, oh, this is a cool passion. But if you go, hey, wait a minute, I've got this passion and it's interested in the space here, and this person is a leader or a thought leader, or just doing things here. That's where change happens. So you're like, cool, I'm not connected with, as opposed to just a website or a YouTube page or whatever. You go talk to the person and go, hey, then things might happen. And as you said, it's not always.
And I'm saying that as an extrovert. And so I guess for my introverted friends out there, that might be kind of like, well, I don't want to go talk to random people I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think Laura's found this too. Like, as I mentioned earlier, like she's like a mad introvert, right? But the conversation she has with like dentists or engineers or like website people, like she has these like insanely intense conversations about really technical things that I know that she's like gaining a huge amount from. Now, I don't really understand those conversations, like literally, and like why they'd be interesting to her. But I know that she is gaining something from it. She's gaining from I think she's going through the same process, right? This person is interesting. Well, I'm interested in what they're doing. I want to kind of learn from them as well. So I guess I'm saying this from the position of an extrovert, but I think it can apply to that introvert friends out there too, right?
100%. I think about my background is computer science, and I think about my time in computer science. I was a very quiet person, but that didn't mean that I didn't find my people in computer science to have a geek out because these are pretty cool people. When you find your people, right? And whatever that looks like, it could be out there, it could just be on a LAN connection somewhere, but your friends right next to you. It's just crazy. I think that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, beautiful. And I think that's important because our listeners are a whole range of extroverts, introverts, and just because you're introvert doesn't mean you can't connect with people that you're interested in because they probably are quite
and a lot of people, the idea of going to like a networking event, it just sounds like torture, right? And so I totally get that. But I think one of the great things about New Zealand is that you can be quite ambitious for people you want to connect with, like you can kind of bring people up or email people and they will pay attention to you in New Zealand, right? So I think that's really cool, is that how small New Zealand is, how much of a village it is. It can be like a really cool thing. And I think, especially like in that kind of leadership entrepreneurship space, like there's a lot of people who want to support other entrepreneurs, other leaders out there, and they can see why it's good for, they get into it. So
I think that's a great piece of knowledge into a basket because if we forget about that, hey, because sometimes you get told, oh, that's cool, that's it, but is that going to get you anywhere? But actually, hey, if it's your thing, it's your thing, and look where it led you. And like I said before, if we asked you,
well, I wouldn't want to say that it's all been smooth sailing. I wouldn't want to say that it's always been a straight line.
Totally.
There's been some ups and downs along the way, and there's been some times where that hasn't worked and times where it has worked, and there's never a straight line. But I think yes, I don't want to kind of make it out like it's always been smooth sailing, right? But I think sorry, I was talking.
No. I think that's important because I think we've got to realize that hey, life is not a straight line and it's not smooth sailing. And sometimes people say no to you. You'll contact someone and say no, actually, I don't have time for you. And
all the time.
Go, okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm doing sales at the moment, man. People say to me no to me all the time.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, I don't envy you right now, Adam. Beautiful, Adam. Thank you so much. This has been really. I know you're mindful of your time with your young people, and I don't want to keep you on for too much longer. But this has been a fantastic conversation. There's been so much here for me to take away, and I'm sure there's so much for our listeners to take away as well. Any last words from you, Adam? I mean, you can also, if you want to talk about where we can get your wife's toothpaste from, that'll be also awesome. Because why not? Yeah.
We plug, yeah, sure. Most New Worlds around New Zealand. We're in about 80% of the New World, so please go there. We do our mint toothpaste and our strawberry toothpaste there. If you're looking for more toothpaste tablets or toothpaste powder or more refill options, go to your local eco store. Or of course you can find us online at just solidoralcare.co.nz. But I think more importantly, I guess the takeaway is like think about the different things that you can do to live a more sustainable life, and to do it with like joy, I guess. It's not a chore, it's not something that you have to do. It's something that can be like really fun, and so like our customers, for example, they love bringing back their jars to us because it just makes them feel a bit better about themselves. They just feel like they're part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I guess try and find the joy in climate action, whether that be bike to work or whatever it is. Find what like those things that is going to make you feel good about yourself as well, because it has to be like a positive experience, climate action. And any last words? No, thank you so much for this opportunity. Really nice to talk to you. People out there want to get in touch. If there's anything I can do to support, let me know. There's probably not, but if I can, like I'm happy to help. Yeah, thanks for the time, and really nice talking to you. And it's been really, really fun.
Awesome. No, beautiful, Adam. I think that was a great way to wrap the podcast. Whatever you do it with joy. Life is short. Find things that make you happy. Making you happy is by doing something that's going to help the world. I mean, everybody wins in that space there. So that's a really great way to wrap up to this episode. So listeners out there, hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully you've learned something. If you haven't, go back and listen because you weren't listening properly. You missed something on this podcast here. Adam, thank you so much for jumping on. For our listeners again, don't forget to like, share, comment if you think this is an interesting podcast. But the most important thing is over the next week, don't forget to put something to your Basque knowledge, and don't forget to find something to keep to smile for. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your baskets of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.